Recently, I've been thinking a lot about what the next Splatoon game will look like on the Switch too. With the huge success of all 3 previous games in the series, I think Splatoon 4 is basically guaranteed to happen eventually. The questions are when it will happen and what form it will take. I have a lot of ideas for a new Splatoon game, and some of them might be seen as kind of extreme or highly unlikely. But I think this series is at an important crossroads with the next game, as it'll set the tone for the entire series in the following years. It's officially been more than a decade since the first game came out on Wii U, and since the original trilogy was wrapped up in such a glorious fashion with the Grand Festival, I think now is the time for some relatively big shakeups to the core formula. I know it's ironic that the guy who was 100% on Team Present is already thinking about the next Splatoon game, but I just enjoy speculating and coming up with fun new ideas. To a lot of people, a new Splatoon game seems like a fairly straightforward thing. New maps, new weapons, a new single-player story, and that's pretty much it. But there's so much more that goes into it, and I'm hoping they'll take things even further this time. During the lead up to Splatoon 3's launch, there was a lot of discussion about how the third game looked somewhat unchanged from the second one. Now most people who are big Splatoon fans could tell how different it was, and were still extremely excited to play the new game. But I think they have to be sure to make the fourth game feel new and different enough to not draw the same criticism that 3 was getting when it was coming out. In order to be the biggest success possible, it should feel like a truly fresh and original game for this franchise that everyone can get really excited about. Hardcore fans, casual enjoyers, and newcomers alike. It being on a whole new console will definitely help, as despite there being a more than 5-year-long gap between 2 and 3, the fact that it was on the same system led to a lot of people thinking that it was way too soon for a new game. But I'm sure when Splatoon 4 gets announced there will still be a bunch of people who say something like, "Yup, that sure looks like another Splatoon game," so trying to impress the demographic of people who aren't huge fans of Splatoon will be an uphill battle. It's also worth mentioning that the skepticism of Splatoon's innovation is largely just a Western thing. As this series is a much bigger deal in Japan, it doesn't seem to be put under as much scrutiny over there. So it's entirely possible that Nintendo isn't feeling the pressure to shake things up in the way that I hope they do, as it's not like Splatoon 3 was a failure or anything. But it's still fun to think about and discuss all the potential things that could happen in a new game. Let's start by talking about launch timing. I'm no expert in the structure of Nintendo's development teams, but it's clear that the Splatoon and Animal Crossing teams share a lot of the same developers. In the past, this means that the main focus of EPD5 has been on just one of these 2 franchises. It's entirely possible that with all the recent growth at Nintendo, the team has been able to split and will be developing both new Splatoon and Animal Crossing games at the same time. But for now, let's just assume that things will stay the same as they have been in the past. This would mean that only one of these 2 series will show up in the first year or 2 of the Switch 2's lifespan, and looking at the sales numbers, it's pretty clear which one will take the priority. While Splatoon 4 could end up being the perfect game to show off the new mouse controls of their shiny new console, having a new Animal Crossing close to launch definitely seems a lot more likely given the unprecedented success of New Horizons. Plus it's been a lot longer since that game came out in 2020, so if the team keeps up their alternating pattern, it's about time for a new one. I'm speculating that Animal Crossing 6 will release in the spring or summer of 2026, which means it could be announced relatively soon. But what does that mean for Splatoon? Well, I think that pushes Splatoon 4 back by a bit. Historically, Splatoon games have been released in or around the summer season, so I don't really see a holiday launch being a possibility. With all this information in mind, I think there are 2 possible scenarios in terms of release dates. In the best case scenario, the team split and has been making new games for both franchises simultaneously, meaning Animal Crossing could be in the spring of 2026 and Splatoon 4 would release later on in the summer of that same year. But that seems a bit too good to be true to me. So more realistically, I think Splatoon 4 will be released in the summer of 2027. Now that could be pushed back even further depending on when Animal Crossing comes out, but I'd have to imagine that they've expanded and are capable of releasing the games closer together. Plus, I don't think Nintendo will want to go too long without a new Splatoon game on their latest console, as its online multiplayer gameplay is so unique for a first-party offering. So my ridiculously specific prediction for Splatoon 4's release date is June 17th, 2027. And while of course it's a bit sad to think of this game being so far away, I think it's probably best to space out the games with around 4 to 5 years between each entry in order to build interest and anticipation. But of course I'll keep hoping that they're able to put out both a new Animal Crossing and Splatoon game closer together. Now let's switch gears for a bit and talk about what the overall theme and vibe for this game could end up being. The winning team of the final Splatfest of each Splatoon game always plays a decently large role in the next entry. Team Past ended up winning the Grand Festival, but it's unclear just how much that will affect the setting and atmosphere of Splatoon 4. Team Chaos winning in 2019 seemed to have set the overall tone of Splatoon 3 as messy and wild, with the desert setting seeming on brand with Chaos as well. When Team Marie won back on Wii U, it only changed the story mode a bit, but now it seems like the whole theme of the next game is heavily impacted by the final Splatfest. While I'm still a bit sad that Team Present wasn't able to deliver the win, the past being the theme could still be pretty cool. But I don't think there's going to be any time travel or prequel stuff going on. Splatoon's identity is strongly connected to modern culture, fashion, and music, so I'm not really sure what a game themed around the past would look like. There is this promotional image of Brinewater Springs that seems to fit pretty well, with possibly a main hub area that's more inspired by older Japanese design styles instead of the modern cities we've gotten so far. It's tough for me to imagine a hub area that isn't a bustling city, but I think it will at least be wider in scale and more spread out opposed to the chaotic vibe of Splatsville, maybe with a dynamic day and night cycle that changes over time as well. As for the location of Splatoon 4, I'd place my bets on it being set in Calamari County. Splatoon 3 expanded the map west to the outer Splatlands desert, and I think the fourth game heading east towards the homeland of Callie, Marie, and Captain Cuttlefish would be the perfect setting for a Splatoon game themed around the past. Since the Squid Sisters won the Grand Festival, getting to explore where they grew up seems like a great option. Part of me still wishes that Splatoon 4 will have a more modern and futuristic city full of high-tech gadgets. So the best case scenario for me would be sort of a hybrid setting that's old-fashioned in terms of the building designs and clothing, but has lots of futuristic modern technology on top of it all. So maybe Calamari County has seen a lot of progress over the last few years without losing its uniqueness. Now let's talk colors. Each Splatoon game has a set of two main colors that define the visual identity of the game as a whole. Splatoon is orange and blue, Splatoon 2 is pink and green, and Splatoon 3 is yellow and purple. That's most of the biggest colors already taken, so it's sort of hard to predict what will come next. I really don't think red will ever be the main color of a Splatoon game, as an inkling exploding in red ink doesn't exactly look very family friendly. I've thought for a while that a lighter shade of blue will be the main color of Splatoon 4, and I think pink would be a great accent color to go alongside it. Yes, I'm aware that these are the colors of Sweet Tarts, but let's all just forget about that for a moment. I'm fairly confident that blue will be at least one of the main colors, as it's been a long time since the darker blue was used as the secondary color in the original. Here's a potential logo I made that uses this color scheme, and while it's not perfect, I think it shows how these colors could work. Let's move on to talking about the idols. Splatoon 3 introduced 3 new idols with Deep Cut, but I don't think the fourth game will have 4 idols. That's obviously just a bit too many to keep track of and have them all have memorable personalities, so I think it'll go back to being just 2 idols. And no, I don't think it will be Callie and Marie again. They've had a massive presence throughout all 3 Splatoon games so far, and I think it's time for the original cast of characters that we all know and love to move into a more retired type position in the background. Of course, I love the Squid Sisters, Off the Hook, and Deep Cut, but I'd also love to get to know a whole new cast of Splatoon characters that I'll care about just as much someday. And it would be kind of weird if all the old idols are just performing on stage again like business as usual after it's been so long. So I really hope we get a fresh set of idols, and I'm predicting that they will both be males this time around. Yes, Big Man is a male idol already, but this time I think it'll be a male Inkling and a male Octoling, each representing one of the main colors. The blue Inkling will be cool, calm, and collected like Shiver, and the pink Octoling will be more spirited and fiery like Pearl. And hopefully they get to have an involved presence in the story mode as well. I have nothing against female idols and would be fine if that's what they do again. I just think male idols would be a pretty cool shakeup. As for their group name, the best I could come up with is Coral Wave, with Coral representing the pink and Wave being the blue. I can workshop it. Sort of related, I also think that Splatfest should return to only having 2 teams instead of 3. It was a fun experiment in Splatoon 3 to have 3 different teams to choose from, and it led to some fun tricolor turf wars, but in my opinion it made the decision of which team to join a lot less interesting. They obviously can't increase the number of teams to 4, so I think scaling it back to 2 would be the best move. Sort of tying into the blue color theme, I've had an idea in my head for a while that water will have a strong presence in the maps and hub area of Splatoon 4. Since 3 was set in the desert, it would be a great contrasting vibe that would make this new entry feel totally different. I don't know if there's a coastline anywhere near Calamari County, but I'm sure they can just add one on the east side if they really wanted to. I'm not talking about a full Splatoon island type thing, just a town by the water with the odd palm tree here and there. Of course, there should be a whole bunch of new stages that take place in the new location, and hopefully they're a lot larger and more interesting this time around. The small, squarely designed maps of Splatoon 3 often feel quite restrictive and claustrophobic. I'd love it if one of the ways they make this game feel different is by having the scale of the stages be just absolutely massive, and maybe adjusting the weapons to make up for the larger amount of ground you have to cover. If the maps were double or even triple the size of the current ones, even your basic turf war match would feel entirely new and different. And there could be more stage gimmicks like rails and boost pads to make getting around easier. I realize that this is coming from someone who plays these games pretty casually and that this would probably mess up the competitive aspect of Splatoon, but I'm pretty sure that pro players don't love the current state of Splatoon's map designs either. And in terms of the general gameplay, I actually think things should slow down just a bit. When you go from playing Splatoon 1 to 2 and then to 3, you notice that matches have just gotten faster and faster over time. Splatoon as a series has incredibly fast-paced gameplay, and of course I love that, but it can't keep getting faster forever. So if Splatoon 3 is 100% speed and Splatoon 2 is 80%, I think it should go down to like 87%. That would also make it just a bit more approachable to newcomers. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone but me, but whatever, let's move on. I've never loved the map rotation schedule where only 2 maps are available for any given mode. F099 has a great system where everyone gets to vote between a random selection of 2 maps, which keeps things manageable without making it feel too restrictive. I know people choose weapons based on the maps that are in rotation, but I think it's worth it to try and keep things from getting stale. And a really important feature of Splatoon 4 would be a big, exciting new mode to play. Salmon Run in Splatoon 2 was such a great change of pace, but Splatoon 3's table turf battles weren't really on the same level. If Splatoon 4 is able to add a few more types of ranked battles alongside a big new mode like one-on-one duels or a local co-op mode, that would really help it stand out. They've also got to either revamp the catalog system or just get rid of it entirely. I really don't like how it pressures you into playing matches in order to earn items out of a fear of missing out, as it really messes up the overall item progression for me. Maybe the shops can carry a lot more items that change daily, but I just hope they move away from the season battle pass structure of 3. If I play Splatoon, I want it to be because I'm in the mood for it, not because the catalog is ending soon and I haven't gotten the item I want. When it comes to the lobby system, I think a natural extension of it would be to let you explore the town and browse the shops while still searching for a match. I'm sure it would take a lot of processing power to render all the players running around the entire town instead of just the lobby, but that's what the Switch 2 is for. I'd also love it if your party of players could be physically present in a smoother way than the digital glitchy holographic versions of them in 3. And when it comes to Splatoon 4 making use of the Switch 2's unique system features, obviously mouse mode seems like it would be a great fit. Now for me personally, I'm fairly certain that I'll still end up using a normal controller with gyro as that's just what I like best. But using mouse mode could be a fun alternate control method. And with the more powerful hardware, I'm sure the potential larger map layouts and an overall higher level of detail will make this game feel like a big jump up in quality. A 120 FPS mode could also be an option. Something many Splatoon fans have wanted ever since seeing that first load screen in the original is apartments. I know not everyone loves the idea of having your own apartment, but honestly at this point I think the lockers are basically the same thing in practice. The amount of items you could buy would probably stay about the same as how many decorations there are for lockers, only now you would get to walk around and design your own space. This would be a huge new feature that would really set it apart from the other games, and would clearly indicate to less hardcore fans that this new entry offers something you can't get in the previous ones. Put a music player in there and it would be peak. It could even have a similar level system as the lockers, where you get a smaller, broken down apartment at first and then you unlock larger and nicer ones as you level up. Another massive change to the core gameplay could be having customizable weapon kits. You get to choose the base weapon, and each one comes with a set of sub-weapons and specials to choose between. Not every weapon would get every single option connected to it, so this would kind of just combine all the reskins of weapons like the splatter shot into one system that you get to switch between. And then you could customize the weapons themselves by changing the color and texture on them by unlocking new cosmetics over time. Again, I'm far from a competitive player, so I'm sure I don't fully understand the ramifications of what this weapon kit system would be, but I just think it would be a solid way to change things up and offer the player more options to customize their experience. Of course, the main problem would be balancing the game so that everyone doesn't just pick the same setup with every weapon. I also think that the selection of subs and specials should be largely entirely new. Of course, classics like the Splat Bomb come back, but not too many returning ones in order to make things feel a lot different. And if the maps are way bigger in size, the subs and specials would have to be redesigned a bit to fit the larger scale and the increase in distance between the players. As for the story mode, I think it's probably time to leave the Octo Expansion formula behind. It worked incredibly well for that DLC and the base story of 3, and the way it was remixed in side order was a lot of fun. But now it's time to create a whole new formula. Maybe one big connected overworld instead of the segmented ones of 2 and 3, with larger levels that last longer than the 3 to 5 minutes of the current ones. I'm not saying Splatoon should go open world or anything, but the structure of the levels and overworld should see some pretty big changes. And with the story, I'd love for the idols to have some personal connection to the narrative beyond just a surface level. Maybe the main antagonist could be a third member of the band who left because of some past beef between them. Not just mind control or a misunderstanding, but real stakes for the characters involved. The reason Octo Expansion is by far my favorite Splatoon story is because of how high the stakes are for Agent 8. 3's campaign had a great finale with the fate of the whole planet at stake, but it still felt less intense than the whole final sequence of escaping the Deepsea Metro to reach the surface. So the scale doesn't have to get even bigger for it to be better, as sometimes a smaller scale can hit harder when handled well. I was actually fine with side order having lower stakes, but for the 4th mainline entry I think the story should feel pretty impactful and important. and it should largely be a new cast of characters in the spotlight. I mean, I always love seeing DJ Octavio show up, but if it happens again for the 4th time, it will start to feel pretty predictable. And I hope the new idols get more direct involvement, as deep cut side character energy in Return of the Mammalians is probably why they're my least favorite idol group overall, which isn't their fault. Overall, I sort of want Splatoon 4 to act as a soft reboot for the series as a whole. Maybe it's just because the Grand Festival felt like the perfect send-off to the original cast being in the spotlight, but I'd love to see a fresh new era of Splatoon start on the Switch too. While I love Splatoon 3, it's probably my least favorite in the series in terms of vibes and atmosphere. It served as a great collage of all the previous games by adding in a huge amount of music, idle interactions, and hub areas from past games, but I hope 4 is able to create its own unique sense of identity instead of spending so much time looking backwards, which I get is kind of ironic considering it will be themed around the past. Don't get me wrong, I love all the nostalgic stuff in Splatoon 3. I just think it sort of damaged my connection to Splatsville and Deep Cut as a result since I can just go back to Inkopolis whenever I want. 3 is bursting with content and things to do, but I think a new entry could show that sometimes less is more. I absolutely love this series, and I really want the 4th game to be the best it possibly can be, but I'll be there to enjoy whatever they end up making. At the end of the day, I have a huge amount of faith in the Splatoon team to deliver another incredible experience, even if it ends up being completely different from all the crazy stuff I suggested in this video. If Splatoon 4 is just a simple sequel that doesn't reinvent the wheel too much, I'm sure I'll still love it and play it a ton. I'll be there on day 1 for whatever ends up happening. I just hope this game will be able to have enough new aspects and features to make it feel fresh and exciting for all kinds of players. This game will be bringing in a whole new era of Splatoon, and I hope it's able to bring us just as many great memories as this past decade already has. Stay fresh, don't get cooked, stay off the hook, and I'll catch you later.